your life. You got this. Go chase it, live your life. Enlighten you. Let the light shine through. Light. Enlighten you. Just see it through.
I'm Melissa Thrasher.
And I'm Lolita Cummings.
Welcome to Enlighten You, Eastern Michigan University's award-winning mental health podcast for students. I have a big question for you. If you had a magic wand, would you change your appearance due to dissatisfaction with your body image? Studies show that kids as young as age 3 have body image concerns. Those concerns tend to escalate, often cropping up over a lifetime.
These thoughts are all too common, Melissa. Since we live in a society where being thin is idolized, many people often have concerns about their body image. They often focus on the weight, our skin, our hair, or the size and shape of a specific body part. And while I don't think we can change what we're exposed to daily, what we can do is redirect our negative thoughts into positive thinking and actions.
Antonio Byrd, a recent EMU alum who graduated with a bachelor's degree in education, is joining us today to share how he redirected his body image concerns to a motivational movement. Antonio participated in EMU's Next Scholars program, where he found a supportive community that celebrated his authenticity and helped him throughout his college journey. We also have Dr. Aesha Mustafa, a resident mental health expert, a licensed clinical therapist, and an assistant professor in EMU's Department of Leadership and Counseling. Antonio and Aesha, welcome to Enlighten You. All right, Antonio and Aesha, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So I want to get started. First, I want to say congratulations on your recent graduation. We're all so very proud of you, and we'll learn a little bit more about what you're doing in the episode.
Yes.
So we'll talk a little bit more about that. But I got to know you as an e-ambassador.
Yes.
When you created content for our social media channels and did such a great job. So today we're going to talk a little bit about your personal journey, because I know through our conversations, you told me that you battled with body image.
Absolutely.
And it started at age 14, if that's correct. So can you take us back and tell us, what did you deal with at that age? How did it start?
Geez. It started by comparing myself, honestly, like just being a teenager, just growing socially as well. Like I started to compare myself a lot. And I would look at my peers and I noticed like a lot of other boys, they would be so athletic and I just wasn't like that. I didn't grow up like that. I didn't grow up in sports and things like that. I was a computer kid. So like I always was comparing myself, and it took a toll on my mental. I'm not going to lie. I'd look at myself in the mirror and I would literally hate myself. And like now that I'm older, I'm thinking like, why? And it's kind of sad to think that a kid that young would think like that. But then it's also a snap back to reality that, I'm not the only one. And there's so many other kids that age or teenagers that age that think like that. So, yeah, that was my early experience with body image. Like I was chubby. I always was a chubby kid from like age 7. Always love food, you know what I'm saying? I still do, you know what I'm saying? I still like a good meal. But yeah, that's where my body issues stem from. I say honestly from just comparing myself too much.
Yeah.
So
well, and during the intro, Melissa said some kids have body image issues as young as 3, which is, I know, isn't it unimaginable? Because you were 14.
Yeah, I was 14.
14. But at 9, did you start having like anxiety, paranoia? Did you ramp up to that, or did you just, how did you know? I mean, how did you know you were different?
I'd say it was a ramp up. Just from a young age. Kids are mean. They say things. And I'd say I was very easily discouraged a lot. I listened to a lot of what people said too much. And it was like a ramp up. I'd say like around age 8. But leading up to high school or middle school, I should say, when teenagers, they starting to learn more things and, mouths get so smart. You know what I'm saying? We were saying some cruel things to each other. So like a lot of those things, and you don't realize it at the time, but the more negative things you hear, they start to take a toll on you mentally, and it starts to mess with your subconscious, especially if you believe it about yourself. So
Absolutely. You know, one of this, I have 2 grandsons and they're only 2 and 4 right now, but we're all really conscious about what we say about their body types, because the 2 of them have 2 very different body types. And I think a lot of times adults will say things not realizing the impact that they have on children, and then that stays. And then, like you said, when you get into, elementary school, especially middle school, when our bodies start developing differently, then those messages that we heard early on are reinforced by our peers, and it has to take a toll.
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Yeah, it's a great point you make, because like with little kids, sometimes there's like, oh, you had a great appetite, like that's so great, but then at some point it switches where, oh, you're eating out of house at home, oh, summer's coming, and what am I about to do with you? And so I'm careful with my kiddo of, if she's, she's only 1, but if she eats or doesn't eat, like, oh, you really like the broccoli, oh, you didn't like that, versus having a negative emotion or a positive emotion. Often with little kids, where just eat a little bit more, but you're pushing their natural cues if they're still hungry. And so this is when you start getting overeating, because a kid will stop, they'll move their head, they'll do all this stuff, but you're like, you got to eat more. And that's actually like, they're full right now. And in 20 minutes, they're going to want a snack, but like, that's what their body wants.
Yeah. Instead of the old school, your clean plate club, right? You gotta clean. You gotta be a part of the clean plate club, and so you're stuffing yourself and probably expanding your stomach beyond what its natural capacity is, and forcing yourself and your mindset that you have to eat until this plate is clean, instead of listening to your body cues, right?
And it also doesn't help as well, and I have to speak on this, and I'll speak for the Black community in general, or my community specifically. Like, growing up, all we mostly had was like cheap food and unhealthy food as well, and like just not a lot of education on nutrition. And yeah, I feel like that also played a part in it as well as overeating. And I'm not gonna lie, I also feel like I was using eating as a coping mechanism as well. And that's what also led to my overeating as a kid, like coping with my anxiety and things like that. I would use food because I loved it so much. Still do love food, but not over my health,
But we call it comfort food for a reason, right? Because that food would comfort you while you were suffering from your anxiety, and it made you feel better. So of course you would go back to something that worked for you until it didn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Until it didn't. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So Aesha, can you, after listening to Antonio's story, can you tell us, why does body image issues crop up so early, like 3 years old, so early in a child's life?
Yeah, great question. So part of it is how parents, caregivers talk about kids. Like, you pick up a kid, oh man, you're getting heavy, I'm gonna have to stop picking you up so soon. Or every time you see them, you've gotten bigger, or whatever kind of things. And then with our own parenting, it's like figuring out, like, not saying those little things of like, oh, I shouldn't have another donut. You don't need to say that. And then for folks who are birthing folks, and so if they're like, oh, I really need to lose the baby weight, and your kid's hearing this, they're like, but that body grew me. And then, part of it also with parenting is you want to maybe improve your physical health so you can trace a toddler. But are you saying these little comments of, oh, I gotta really get to the gym, it's hard to do this and that, versus I get to go to the gym, hey, let's take a family walk? Are you saying little comments around like using movement as a punishment? So I need to exercise because I ate something, versus you move because your joints need it. And so as kids get older, they may start noticing like, oh, that kid still gets to sit on their parents' shoulders. I remember when I was like too big for that. And like that was really hard. I was always bigger than my other peers, and it was part of like height and then sometimes weight, and like that was really difficult. So struggling with my own body image. And then depending on the school setting you're in, if you're in a school setting particularly that has a lot of different genders than you, or race, it's like, my body it doesn't look like this. Never will, never has. And so like, what does that look like in different cultures? And then thinking my own culture of being the Black community, it was very normal for when I saw family to be like, oh, you've XYZ, but oh, you're eating so much, but also don't waste my food. And I was like, okay.
So you're hearing like those mixed messages.
Yeah, and so it's tough, versus if you see the kid like, oh man, you look so happy, or like, hey, how are you, versus making a comment about their weight. And then you bring in puberty, and that can just be a different age for everyone else and different bodies. And then something else that happens by image and dysphoria for folks who are non-binary and trans, puberty can be a crisis for them. So you're developing fat in areas you don't want. You're developing breast buds, menstruation. And so there's this crisis that can occur of, I don't recognize what's happening. And so that brings in a whole nother layer. And then folks, they're comparing to their peers. If they like the same sex, it's like, wait, but the person I like looks different than me. And like, it's just a very complicated. And then kids can be really cruel at the age. I think we put too much pressure on kids. Like, they're just really mean versus they're products of their environment and they haven't been given coping skills. They are children actually still.
Yes.
And like, that's, how do you navigate that?
Yeah. So as an adult, when we're speaking to kids, we need to be mindful of how we're saying things to them because it can affect
and how we
they
talk
perceive
about
themselves.
Ourselves of like, why are we saying I need to work out because I did XYZ? There's a lot of things like, oh, Thanksgiving, there's some type of 5K that day. You don't need to work out to you don't earn your food. You're not getting rewarded. You're not a dog. Like, you don't have to do certain things. And like, it's relearning that. Like during the holiday times, magazines will say like, oh, a pizza pie is 300 calories. That equals 700 minutes on the treadmill, because everyone thinks I can just do a quick walk to burn something off. And like, actually, no, we're going to teach you about math. And it's just like, eat the pie. Like, it's not that deep.
Eat the pie, anime.
Yeah, it's just not that deep.
That's so true. You just said something that made me think of another question. How does culture and race and ethnicity figure into body image in different cultures? I mean, it does, doesn't it? And how we think about our bodies and even the family that we're in. Like, how were you treated by members of your family? Did they have messages for you about your body that was good or wasn't good?
I do generally come from an overweight family and like not so active family. I'd say like recently, like, and I'm so proud, like my grandma, for example, like she get moving and she say like, I inspire her, like, to get in the gym and keep it moving. So generally, no, not really from my family.
Okay. Cause they were what you considered yourself a little overweight. So they were very similar to you.
Yeah, same.
So there wasn't that difference. So what you saw in your family was normal.
Yeah, it was normal. Like eating habits were normal, and the types of food that we ate, like I said, like generally they were cheaper, but it's what we could afford and is what was available and accessible to us, or what we, what they grew up on, what I grew up on. So, it's kind of like just, I wouldn't say comments from my family impacted my body image in a negative way.
And isn't it sad that those things that are healthy for us, the fresh fruits and vegetables, are more expensive than a Big Mac and fries and the meal deal, right?
Exactly.
I mean, you can get that way for way less money than you can fresh peaches or apples or.
And access is a big key too, because you mentioned food deserts. There are a lot of food deserts in Michigan, so access can cause an issue for some people too. So I have a question. I want to go back to your story because I know that you found music at an early age, but there's a reason why you did. So you've mentioned you dealt with anxiety and different things during different periods of your life. But I know at one point you had a loss in your family. So can you take us back and let us know how you found music and why? Because that was a coping mechanism for you, right?
Absolutely. So I found music at a very, very young age. I grew up, first of all, being obsessed and watching like Barney, for example, like already recognizing songs and like meaning themes to them. But fast forward to when I got in middle school, my mom got me my first MacBook. I started dabbling in GarageBand and learning how to produce. And then once I got to high school, I started to seriously learn and make my own songs. But however, in high school, I did lose my mother in 2018. It was very unexpected. It was a medical issue one morning before school, and she didn't make it. And that took a major toll on me. That was my world. I grew up being raised by a single mother, so that was literally my world. And it took such a toll on me. But I did end up turning to music because music gave me a voice, and it gave me something an outlet for me to just let out how I was feeling, because I didn't really know how to do that at that age. So yeah, that's how music truly became my voice, truly.
Was it then that you started to think differently about your body image?
I not only my body image, but how I talk to myself. I started to really think about the things that I said to myself, especially like the first thing in the morning. And I'm still learning to do positive affirmations and things like that in the morning. But music started to make me more conscious on the things that I said, period. And that started to do a lot with my body image. And I did start losing weight towards my 11th grade, 12th grade year, because I just started instead of just downing myself or, talking bad about myself or hating myself, like, okay, I'm about to do something about it. Like, if I want to be more active, I'm going to get more active. Like, so.
I'm so sorry to hear about your mom. I mean, I can't even imagine what that time like was for you. But I when you were talking, I was struck by how your mom gave you the laptop, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then you get GarageBand, and then ultimately, even though you didn't know you were going to lose your mom, that's kind of what saved you,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, literally.
It's interesting how things work. What kind of music do you like?
I love a variety of music. I mean, grew up hip hop, R&B, most definitely. A lot of pop, a lot of rock too. A lot of rock. I've been heavy on the alternative lately too.
Okay.
But yeah, mostly I say pop, hip hop.
And you sing?
Yes.
And you rap?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I does it all. You know what I'm
So
saying?
when you went in, you went all in.
Oh yeah.
He's like, I'm gonna dabble on everything.
I'm all big on just diversifying my music palette. Like, yeah, I just love good music.
That's great. And so you said you have these positive affirmations that you do in the morning. Is that a part of your music?
Yes, I'm working on incorporating more of that into my music too, because at first when I started doing music when I was young, like, I was just expressing myself, whatever I was feeling, whether it was good or bad, negative, positive. But I'm definitely focused on more of the positive, as I'm focused on just changing my language to more positive language towards myself. So yeah, that's definitely going to show up in my music.
I love that.
The more I release.
Aisha, can you talk a little bit about how positive affirmations can make
I was like waiting for
Yes, please.
yeah, no, like talking positive to yourself, and so thanking your body for the things it does rather than what it can't do. Especially as we age, I feel like in my mid-30s, like, oh, that little backache, like what was that? No, I was like, oh, those postpartum knees. What are we doing today? And so rather than thinking of like what I can't do, is like thanking myself for my belly. It grew a baby. She turns 1 soon, so it's like all the reflections.
She's gorgeous.
Thank you. She's really cute. She's really cute. Thinking about rather than, oh, how do I look in the clothes, like versus these clothes make me feel good, they feel really comfortable. If I see a picture of myself, we all do the check, like, how do I look? But not thinking, oh God, I didn't suck it in, or I didn't do this, versus like, do I look happy? Because there's some pictures where you look fantastic, whatever that means to society, and you look back and you're like, I was miserable in that picture.
Literally.
The pictures from the thinnest, I was like, it was horrible. I was shivering because I had tried to get so small as a person. And so I think about when my kid's at an age of where she sees a picture, and rather than be like, ooh, let's retake it, I was like, oh man, mommy looks so happy. Like, or like, do you look like, yeah, I know. But like how to have like saying those things to your kids, because part of it, we're always like, we don't want to impact our kids with negative thoughts, but we haven't healed our own internal talk about what do we say to ourselves. And so it's a balance in this tension of like, you want to improve yourself. Maybe you want to do running like Hugh does in one of our episodes, but also not trying to be like, I can't do this, or I need to lose weight. And so there's this huge shift, what's called health at any size, HAES, of you can be healthy any size. The medical society will say you need to be thin to be healthy. I remember going in for back pain, and I wanted a referral to a physical therapist. She's like, yeah, we're going to do that. We would typically give you like muscle relaxers, but we can't because you're pregnant. And we typically would say lose weight. Ma'am, that had nothing to do with my back.
No, it doesn't.
I need to strengthen the back. And the PT affirmed, like, no, you need to increase the muscles. But this assumption that if you look a certain way, you eat a certain thing, that's causing all of your problems. And so they don't even try to think of other things. And so what does fat positivity look like? And so for one thing is reclaiming that fat is not a bad word. So some people will be like, I look fat in this picture. And you're like, no, you don't. And it's like, it's okay if you look fat. That's not a bad word. Like, it's just not
We have to get society
It's
to
so
understand that
hard.
and to believe it, and to get ourselves to believe it.
It's so hard.
because we've been trained that fat is
a
bad.
bad word.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the ideal.
Oh, yeah,
or
exactly.
not the ideal.
Right, yeah.
Skinny
Yeah.
is the ideal.
Yeah, when I
Yeah.
at second grade, that word could have destroyed me if a kid would have said that. And now it's like, okay. So my friends, if they ask that question, I'm like, I'm not gonna engage in this. Like, do you look fat? Because that's not a bad thing.
Right.
And so versus like, are you happy with what you're wearing? Does it fit you in the way you want it to fit? And not because so we always say like, oh, like, why is that person wearing that thing? Why do you care? And like, as long as it's like, if it's comfortable for them, do they feel empowered? Like that's all that matters because society creates this culture of you should be wearing certain things. Where other cultures, they show their belly at weddings.
Right.
And where I feel like in the American culture, it'd be like, oh, that's way too tight. Why are you showing your belly? What age are you? And so just being really cognizant of like how you treat yourself. And like, I try to treat myself like I would a child. And that every day is like, I would never say it to a child in my life on the street anywhere. So,
You know, this makes me think about when young people were teased and, you know, they become adults and they're carrying all this weight, you know, all of these references to being, you know, a bigger person than their peers. How do they navigate as they become an adult, you know, and try and decipher from those negative thoughts and change their thinking into positive affirmations? How do you transition from that as a young person?
Question.
you're still young doing the same thing.
Yeah, how do you move from that? Because, you know, I think back to being, you know, I was a chubby child, you know, and I'm still not like thin, but I'm comfortable, you know, in my skin. But I remember some, you know, people back in the day that would say some things and it's like, well, look at me now. Yeah. But, you know, yeah. So how did you overcome that, you know?
I think, and you mentioned something like just about being comfortable in your skin. You have to. This is the skin God blessed you with. And I would say like just getting more connected with God and just my purpose, honestly. Like, you know, if this is the way that God made me, if you don't like me for me, hey, that means something's wrong with you. And I just had to start telling myself that, like, if I love myself, I'm not about to sit up here and try to make somebody else feel down about something that they can't change. You know, and I mean, like, yeah, I can change. I can get in the gym and get healthy and things like that. But I mean, hey, what you see is what you get, you know.
I love that confidence. How old were you? Because a lot of times that comes with age, that comes with wisdom. How old were you when you were finally, when you realized you are good, that you were comfortable in your skin with your body? And how did that change your overall mental health? I'm assuming it's a little bit at a time, but I don't know.
Okay, so 24.
Oh, you know the age.
I'm 24, so I'd say I started to really feel that way 21.
Oh, I love that for you.
Recent, like, I'm not gonna lie,
Yeah,
like
no,
within
this
the
is
past
good.
few years. Yeah, I feel like and just like I did start therapy here. Shout out to Eastern EMU Caps. I did start therapy my junior year here. And like that helped a lot. I just started watching what I was like, the actual content that I was watching more motivational, positive content. And yeah, like that definitely helped me just get to this point where I'm like, hey, this is me. This is my body. Like I'm putting in the work. Like, you know, when I go to the gym and I feel good and I'm eating good for the day, like, hey, that's the best that I'm doing. I can look myself in the mirror and say, hey, like I'm blessed to be here. I'm blessed to be alive. And, you know, hey, it could always be worse.
It could always be worse. One question from what you just said. You said you watched a lot of content. I'm going to ask this question to both of you. How does social media content affect body image? Because I'm assuming it's a double-edged sword. It cuts both ways.
Yeah.
When I say comparing yourself, social media makes that 10 times worse. 10 times worse. Especially when I was in middle school, that's when Instagram started to become like what it is. And like I seen the shift live happening from, you know, people just posting sunsets and things like that to, you know, oh, like I gotta look this way. I'm photoshopping my picture, like, you know what I'm saying? And like I seen this shift, and then like it made you feel like, okay, somebody that you're watching that's your age, like, hey, if I'm 14, I see this other 14-year-old, you know what I'm saying, that they got all this luxury stuff and, you know, got all these cars and things like that. Why don't I have it? What am I doing wrong?
Yep.
You know? So just comparing yourself, it made it 10 times worse.
And a lot of times you're comparing yourself and trying to look like someone who doesn't even look like that themselves.
In real life.
Exactly.
Like-
Yeah, with all the filters
Yeah.
and everything
They don't
else.
even
that's
look
It's like
out
you're trying to look like a
there.
cartoon.
That's it.
I'm trying to look like Bugs Bunny right now.
Aisha.
Yeah, social media. So we're different ages. We were developing film in high school for our pictures. So there was no retaking it. And so I remember, I think Facebook came out the years into college, and you need to have a college email address.
Yes, you did.
So like I'm of that age.
Did you know that, Antonio?
I really didn't.
You did. When
I really
Facebook
did
first
not.
came out.
It was like for college students.
yeah. And you had to have a college email address.
Okay, Facebook.
Yeah, and I don't know how long that lasted. So it's like a little different. But certain things I do is I follow people who are health at any size wellness folks. So I mean, like, not like the fitness little gym bunnies, but they'll show a picture and purpose of this is the Instagram version, this is the unedited, and like all they did was turn their hip, because we take the pictures over and over and post the best one, and they're like, please stop, you see this, like the lighting and then all that kind of stuff, like it's just all an illusion.
Yeah.
And so I try to be careful if I post a social media picture, which is rarely, that I don't keep taking multiple pictures. Do I look happy? Cool. Like, because otherwise it gets into the, I don't like this. Okay, can you stand on the steps? And wait, where's the sun at? You know, it's called magic hour. It's like, it's a lot. And again, I like it was literally, it's like 6 p.m. sometimes, the way the sun is. Yeah. And so it's like, it's too much. And then I sometimes with certain pictures, I'll be like, I don't want that on my phone, because I'll keep checking. Like if I'm like, hey, to my husband, how do I look in this dress before an event? I don't want the picture, because I'll keep checking and this, and then I'll compare in that versus like, I like how I look and I'm happy. Like keep it moving.
I am going to remember that standard. It's not how necessarily how I look, except do I look happy? That's the one. That's different. Yeah, that
I
changes
love
everything.
It does when you think about it that way. But for someone, a young person, dealing with body image issues, and you're on social media scrolling and comparing yourself, how do you deal with that? How do you talk yourself out of thinking that I need to look this way and I need to have that person's life? What should I be thinking as a young person?
Jeez. Just...
The hard-hitting question.
Yeah. No, but it's like, it's a real question. Like, you have to just know that, someone else's blessing isn't your blessing. Everything is going to fall in place for you when it's time and when you're ready for it. And you just can't compare yourself. All you can do is put your best foot forward every day, and yeah, you can't compare yourself. You can't compare blessings, because God gives it to you when it's time.
That's so true.
That's
And I do
good.
not want it before my time.
Because
Right.
you may not be ready for it and you can lose it.
Yeah,
That's real.
that's a bad situation.
I can think of many blessings or opportunities that I didn't take or couldn't take, that I feel like if I took them at that time, it would have been detrimental to me, and it would have held me back.
Because blessings can be curses, depending upon the situation.
Exactly.
For sure. So, do you have a group of boys that you talk about, not necessarily these things, but things that keep you grounded, things that keep you stable? How does it work?
Absolutely. Yo, my bros, shout out my bros. Like, we've been literally tied in since high school, some since middle school, like, and we talk about this all the time, like how it's a blessing that we stay together and we're all focusing on our passions and our dreams. And we've established this safe space for each other, because, we've all like experienced mental health issues and experienced things in our life that took tolls on us. So we understand the importance of, hey, talk to me when you need to, talk about your emotions. Like, we men now, some of my bros, like a couple of my bros, they have children now, families, and married. Like, so there's a lot that goes on. And you just always want to know, like, hey, if we're spending time with each other, we're going to be in each other's space, sharing each other's time and energy. At least you could be yourself and express yourself when you're in my presence.
Absolutely.
And that's the least. Like, like other than that, I feel like, hey, it's a waste of time.
Love it. How important is that, Aisha?
It's
Having
amazing.
that.
The community you surround yourself with. And sometimes, like, do you need to, like, invite a friend into a conversation of, like, hey, the way you're talking about your body, ooh, what are we doing? Because, like, and friends like, oh, should I get the apple or the bread? Like, that's a fine conversation. But if you start doing, like, well, I already had carbs earlier, I'm like, no, let's not do that right now.
Literally, and
But-
I would even chime in on that too.
Yeah.
Like I told him, like focus on your health. Like like
What
that's
makes
the
you
type.
feel good in this moment for
Exactly.
your body?
Exactly.
Because I want to add your piece about social media. I think there's a couple things. Is if you see folks, rather than comparing, like try to notice, like, oh, they look really happy, or oh, that color, that's their color, versus their thighs look smaller than mine. And then also the comparison is reminding yourself, like, your things you want shift. I'm in my minivan stage. I want a minivan so hard with seats that fold in, the captain seat. And like so, like when I was 20, I didn't want a minivan because I grew up driving like a minivan with the wood paneling. So like no, and so everything that you see may shift, and just being gentle that like what you want and what you're comparing to, it all changes. Please give me that minivan. I just want that minivan. I can't take you seriously right now.
You deserve that minivan.
He's saying it changes with time, because you mentioned, you know, that as you grow old, I mean, we all know that you get wiser, right? So
Yeah, and something wrong with wanting the fancy car, but like I think beating yourself up that we want the most XYZ expensive thing. And I was like, where is this affordable minivan for me? I don't want the fancy expensive car. I want the affordable minivan.
I mean, but you also got to think too, like, because you just made me think about something. Why do you want that expensive? Like, is it because society tells you this is what's popping, or this is what's, acceptable for, this type of lifestyle, or you should have this type of lifestyle, or hey, what's going to fit you in your lifestyle? What's going to fit you in your style? What's going to, be most beneficial to you specifically, not to what society is telling you is for you,
And I can just see that beautiful baby in that minivan, that car seat strapped
I
in.
don't want the fancy car with 2 seats. I want to be able to pack in all her friends. That's what I want. I want the room, the stow and go.
And you have that whole story, her packing her friends in, so you
Yeah.
have that happiness, that joy
Yes, exactly.
attached to the minivan.
Yes.
That's your van, girl. That's not the paneling though. We can't do paneling.
yeah,
No,
not the
wood
panel,
paneling.
not the
No.
panel. What color do you want? Or does it
Black or
matter?
like a steel gray. I
Oh,
could do maybe.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Well, Antonio, you're leaving us. Two questions. What would you say now, where you are, to your 14-year-old self? And what do you leave students with here who are having body positivity issues?
I would say to my 14-year-old self, chill out. Don't compare yourself. Be blessed with all that you have and appreciate everything that you have, because it could be gone in an instant. And I would tell current students or future students coming in, just do you. This is an investment, and this is a lot of time and energy and possibly money that you're investing in this experience. Make it worth it. Make it all the way worth it. Don't waste your time comparing yourself to other people, because it has nothing to do with you. Focus on you and focus on what's benefiting you in your life.
Love that.
Great
I love
advice.
That
Great
was real
advice.
nice.
Aisha, you want to add something?
I feel like I should, but that was so great. I think be happy with where you are in this present moment, reminding yourself you are where you need to be, and tomorrow is another opportunity to grow, because it's okay to want to better ourselves, but not being stuck on the, well, I wish I could have been more and more in this. Like, you're perfect as you are. Full stop. You don't need to improve to be better.
I love
Awesome.
that too.
Yeah, we got to wrap up soon. You have any final questions? I know.
I have one last
Yeah,
question.
that's good.
Because
That's good.
Antonio, you're in your career now.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you just wrapped up student teaching and you got a new job starting in the fall. So I'm curious, and I'm hopeful, because I know this is gonna come through when you're teaching the kiddos, like what Aisha always says, the kiddos. But when you're teaching your kids, and who are struggling in some areas, because you've had a long mental health journey, how will you inspire them?
I will inspire them, honestly, by just being candid and just showing the human part of me in my class, showing the humanity in me, showing that, hey, I'm a person just like you. I'm not just this person that's coming to teach you these lessons and things like that. I'm a human being that you can turn to and talk to when you need to, that's going to help you just grow in life in general. So like just keeping it real, like, if I hear things, like even when I was student teaching, like I'd hear kids saying things and I would have to correct them, like, like, hey, don't say that this does this to this person, or this may affect this person this way, watch what you say. So yeah, I'm just keeping it real and candid and being as human as I can be.
That's great. I know you'll be a great
I'm so
inspiration.
excited for your
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah. Congratulations on your graduation. Yes. Yes. Aisha, we always ask for help. Antonio mentioned how CAPS was invaluable to him. What are the resources
So
you
yes,
have?
CAPS, 12 sessions per year. The counseling clinic in the College of Ed is staffed by our counseling master student interns. And then the community behavioral health clinic is staffed by our psych master students and Ph.D. students. And so those are all free resources. And then the counseling clinic and the community behavioral clinic are also open to the community for very small fees, like $10 a session. Like you will not find that elsewhere.
Wow.
Yes, a lot of folks' low rates in the community will be like $100 an hour. Yes.
Well, thank you so much. Since this is our last episode of the season, I'm excited that summer's coming. What are we all doing for summer? What are you excited about, Melissa?
You had to ask me first, right?
Sorry.
That's okay. So I have an aunt that's turning 90.
Oh.
And so we plan to go to Europe in a few weeks. So I have some travel plans that I'm really excited about this summer. New Orleans, the Essence Fest is coming.
She's a concert music girl.
I love music too. That's where you and I
nice.
see eye to eye. I love music. So yes, I'll be at Essence. So excited about that. So just travel and, enjoying just the relaxation and the sun. That's what I'm looking forward to.
I love those words. Just
I
like
need
the
some
feel- I
sun
see the
in my
words on the-
life. Yes, yeah. So I'm excited.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. You have a great time. How about you, Antonio?
I'll be assistant director in the summer camp that I've been doing since I was 18. I love doing that job. And yeah, hopefully getting the album out there.
Okay.
Yeah, getting a new album out there. I just want to present myself in the newer, just more mature and evolved light that I feel like I am in life with my music. So.
Well, let us know when it drops and we'll help you to promote it.
Oh, please.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Nice. For me, a couple of things. So always going to talk about Tinker. She's having office hours on Wednesday in the summer, 11:30 to 1. So my kiddo and I are going to go there. And then the second floor, they have the largest Michigan children's literature. So we're going to read some books, walk to campus. I'm very excited. And then the other thing is I was awarded a Summer Research Activity Award through the university. And we'll be doing research on Enlighten You. And so there'll be more information about inviting students and recent alum to talk about how Enlighten You helped them increase their mental health literacy. So this is understanding about mental health problems. When is it not I'm just kind of having a hard semester, but I need to talk to someone at CAPS, and also how it increases their sense of belonging and that they feel connected to their community. They feel connected because of their social identities and feel like maybe this is a place that feels like home for them, and has the podcast help them feel that, oh, other people are experiencing depression, other people have body image, like I feel like I belong here.
I'm so
yeah, I'm so
excited about this
excited.
project. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
so excited about this
Me
project.
too.
Thank you for doing that work.
So what about you?
For me, my son's getting married June 21st, so I'm super excited. Yeah, super excited about that. So we're gonna do that. Then he and his then wife, will be moving to California. So I'm gonna go out there for this after they move out there
Oh my
to check out the new
goodness.
digs. So yeah, so I'm excited.
It's gonna be beautiful.
It is.
Beautiful
It
weather.
is. It is a summer wedding outside Pine Knob Mansion. So on top of the hill where you can look down, it's gonna be gorgeous. So I'm
That'll
excited.
be
I'm
really
excited.
fun.
Yeah, thank you.
Wow.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you all for sharing your plans. I know we're all going to have a great time, so enjoy your summer. We hope all of our students do as well. We will be back for season 3 and in September, so we're really excited about that. But thank you so much for joining us. It's a great episode.
Thank you so much.
Wow, that was another good show. I can't believe it's our last show of this season.
Wow.
But I'm glad we ended it here because, we all have problems with our body image, and talking to Antonio just made me feel much better about how I feel about mine. And I really hope it makes everyone feel better about theirs.
You raised a good point because Antonio is so motivational, and I know that students will relate to him and his story. So I'm really excited to roll this one out.
Yeah, me too.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us today. As we wrap up today's episode, let's remember that body image isn't just about how we look. It's deeply connected to how we feel about ourselves. Media, our surroundings, and personal experiences all influence it. But at the end of each day, we each deserve to feel confident and at peace with ourselves.
Absolutely. Healing our relationships with our bodies is a process. It takes time, patience, and self-compassion. But it's even more than that, and it's worth it. So let's keep talking about it. Let's keep pushing back against the harmful standards. And above all, let's keep showing up for each other. This wraps up our final episode of the season, but we're excited to announce that EMU's president, Dr. Jane Smith, has funded us for season 3. That first episode will drop on September 15th, and we'll be back with real talk and stories that matter. Be sure to subscribe, and you'll get an automatic notification as soon as it hits. Until then, take care of yourself, enjoy your summer, and be well.